Welcome to
Hi,
Chain Blazes podcast.
the Argent Saga Podcast, Part 2, featuring
Welcome.
Argos Anon. Argos Anonymous? Argos Anon? What is it?
Here's the problem: people can't spell anonymous consistently,
Fair.
so I sh-
Fair.
so I shortened it. I shortened it to Anon, ANON. It's also, if you're gonna go to a website, you're not gonna go to Argos, ANONY. Oh, Mo. Is there an M? People won't do it, so you keep it short. ArgosAnon.com, and it's very easy. That's all. Yeah. Yep.
well,
Yeah.
well,
Good to see you, man. It's been a long
it's,
time.
it's good to see you, man. I see that complete MetaSuit background that you got going on back there with the artwork
Here.
and the Wall Street Bucks guy right there, like that. I love it.
Oh, my diamond hands, man. Yeah.
Oh
Well,
my God, this.
I run a Patreon, and the top tier is Diamond Hands, and so it
Oh
was
my,
iconic to have
that's
a
kind of
little
cool.
dude. But here, I can put some Argent stuff up. There
There you go. Awesome.
you go.
Thank you, Lee, for showing us your beautiful face for the picture. I've actually been recording for the last 5 minutes just so that we can have a cold start instead of a completely just planned out cold, just fucking beginning to the podcast. So, hi, welcome everyone that's actually watching. We are here to talk about Argent Saga and everything that it entails with a special guest today, Adam Cole, aka Argos Anon, since people can't spell anonymous.
Can't. I mean, some can. Everyone listening can. I'm not talking about anyone listening. Everyone here can spell it.
Man, I'm listening and I can't spell it. I don't know what you're talking about. For those Metasu people that are coming in just because Adam decided to join us and grace us with his presence, his name is from Argent Saga. Thank you very much. He will never admit it no more. But Argus is a
Argos
continent.
it's the world, right?
Yeah, you're right. Argus is
Yeah.
the whole world.
Argos was the planet that Argent Saga was based on, but
Mhm.
now it's my name because I have lived longer than Argent Saga. So if Argent Saga does come back, I'm willing to let it use Argos again, should it
Man,
so desire.
it's getting to the point where people were born after the game ended that are older than the game was when it ended. So
We're not gonna move to Hoken anyway.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It's moving to Hoken.
that's true. That's true. But Hoken is just another continent in the world of Argus. It's
You know,
this is still your world, Adam.
it shows how much that. So like I did Argent Saga content, and obviously, but the name Argos Anonymous comes from two funny things because neither of them are still relevant. It was Argos because that's the planet of Argent Saga, which is what I primarily did content for, and it was anonymous because I was never going to show my face. Oops.
Where there goes that idea.
So at some point, though, you're just like, no, all right.
Well, you went from being basically the biggest content creator for Argent Saga when the game was going on. And not just that, not just were you doing content for us, but you were the biggest, and you are still currently the biggest collector of Argent Saga product out there. Like, I'm right now talking to the two people that have the most Argent Saga products, singles, price cards, everything in the world, realistically. Even though the world's a small part of the US, but that is a true statement. So,
I think if you put Adam and I together, you could say that. But I think that like the two of us probably make up two of the top five of all Argos Saga collectors. So I know that there's a lot of quiet collectors out there too.
yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it's number 1 and 2 respectively. I think it goes Adam, then you, Lee. I don't think there's anyone out there that has that amount of product and singles, to be fair.
It's
And
definitely possible.
because you have your little spreadsheet, Lee, and you may have in some singles like a higher quantity of cards than Adam, because Adam was more of a price card collector. But when you when you're trying to go back and see where all these gold cards went and all these prize cards, there's only one person that has them. Even though he's staying quiet now, just smiling at the camera like he's not guilty of it.
I don't know, child. Where'd they go?
To your basement.
Where'd all the champ stamp? Where are the bone scavengers? No. So here's the thing. I really liked that game. I still do. I like the way the cards looked. It had a good core design. I liked it a lot, and so I kept everything because I just really enjoy it. I just really like it, and so like yeah, the game went under, but and you saw it happening. It was coming. Like they cut down to like a skeleton crew, and there was at least heavy risk on the table. But I just really like it. I liked the game. I liked the cards, so I just kind of hung on to everything.
So you're
Pretty much.
saying you saw it coming. Like you think the writing was on the
Well,
wall, you saw it coming fully, you expected it when it happened?
yeah, by the time it happened, but not the whole time. It's more like you're monitoring risk, and this is how all things in life probably go. You're just looking at the probabilities, and as certain things happen, you feel the risk of default or failure increasing. And one of the big things that happened with Argent Saga is the team just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller until at some point you realize the team's like one dude and a very capable dude. Point in case, that one dude like ran the game for a long time. We're talking production, art design, like business elements, logistics, packaging and shipping, tournaments, pricing. That's insane, so
That one dude who's trying to bring it back, that's we're talking about Damian Hardy right now, guys.
yeah.
Our first guest in the podcast.
But I gotta tell you, so like when the people who own it, that's what they're doing. And the owner, checked out. He was in something else. He put one guy on the post, and that's not a guarantee it's gonna end. I mean, I was hoping they would sell it or something, but that's a sign that the owners are done. So
Yeah, the owners, there's a lot more that happened that the community doesn't know that I'm excited to be able to share with you guys with the permission of some of the people that were more involved, but we are gonna have to wait so you guys can see what's gonna come out of that once we get to sit down with some of the people that we're trying to sit down with. But you're right. I mean, it's public knowledge, James, the owner of the game, went ahead, grabbed Argent Saga, whatever was left of it, opened a candy/hobby store that has been immensely successful, to his credit.
oh yeah, I'm not even. And when I say all that, I'm not faulting the ownership. They make a business decision based on their knowledge, their resources, their opportunities. And everyone nobody else has quite the same access to exactly what they were thinking at the time. And part of life is all about opportunity costs. And so it may have been as simple as saying, well, the game could make it if we kept going, but I have this other opportunity that is going to work for me, and I can only do one.
Yeah.
And so like a businessman makes the decision. I'm passionate about Argent Saga, so sometimes I will, and I'm handsy. So like sometimes I'll appear. I didn't want to be critical of Jim in that. It just that was
Of course.
yeah.
Yeah, we're not here never to single anyone out. We're not trying to put blame on somebody or trying to judge somebody's decision. One of the things that did give me a little bit of comfort was that there was a conversation after Damien decided to leave before the game was canceled, and there were multiple phone calls and multiple meetings of where they or wouldn't they close out the game. And at the end, they say that money-wise, it didn't make sense, which is unfortunate because then you had the biggest TCG boom ever in the history, basically about 4 or 5 months later, where everything skyrocketed in price. And it became the biggest thing during COVID. And everybody was opening boxes trying to pull chase cards. And here you had the first card game that had freaking serial cards in it included, completely gone.
It was kind of unfortunate timing.
It was the worst of timing.
You realize a year after Argent Saga went under, you could have just like started a Kickstarter with a little bit of art and called it like kitty fight
Hmm.
and been like, kitty fight to the moon, and it would have raised like $250,000. This is the dumbest stuff. Like, if you had a whole game, it raises like $500,000 or $800,000 on Kickstarter. And
Hmm.
but how they wouldn't have known that was coming. But isn't it a little ironic?
It's something that pains me to my core every day because it ends up being a what could it have been if some decisions would have been made differently, you know?
Yeah.
But so you found out, you said you saw the writing on the wall a little bit. You were hoping it didn't happen, but it happened. Now, like we said earlier, you bounced back. Now you're one of the biggest MetaSuit, if not the biggest MetaSuit content creator out there, I believe. At least one of the top few. How was that transition to you? Like, did you make up your mind the moment the game ended to just move over to MetaSuit? Was it more of like a
No.
slow process? Like, talk to us about how that whole thing happened.
So similar to Argent Saga, my base is Magic,
Mhm.
but for a long time I've kind of been looking for something else, you know. So like when Argent came along, I was really excited about it. I was like, oh, this is part of it was the gameplay. I really enjoyed a lot of the aspects of the gameplay, frankly, and that's what got me excited about Argent Saga. And so when I checked into the community, the only reason I started making content, literally the only reason, was because like there weren't a lot of people doing it, you know, and I wanted to just give people something to watch and be entertaining in some way for people that liked something that I liked. And so when Argent Saga ended, I was in the same spot again where I was like, well, kind of just stayed away from everything for a little bit. And then Metazu came along, and it's funny because, Metazu gameplay is interesting, but it's very different than Argent Saga in a lot of ways. And I do enjoy it. But Metazu actually was a different thing that it sparked interest for me. Is I like cryptids. That's like Bigfoot, Mothman. I like how crazy it is. Like Metazu's crazy. It's crazy, man. And I liked it. It was so wacky. It's a different part of my brain than the MTG Argent Saga. I don't even see them as competing. I see like there's the Argent Saga MTG brain, and then there's like Metazu. And they are just different. They're different worlds, man. Same thing though. At the time, there weren't too many people making content for Metazu. It hadn't blown up yet. So I just at that time I learned like at least how to plug in a camera. So I was like, well, maybe I'll make some videos for people, and we get like 80 views, and it's fine because it was just the same thing. It was just giving the community something to watch. These new games, they need every little bit of help they can get from people who are passionate. So that's all it was. It wasn't an immediate jump. It was just like a similar but different situation that led to me plugging in a camera again and opening boxes with swords. So
Now it leads to you holding what looks like a skateboard behind you from medicine.
you should see the new ones. They just did a partnership with Bear Walker, and they're like custom carved, like hand painted. They're very, very fancy. This is Revive, which is cool, and a really awesome guy owns Revive. Andy, he's Power 9 Quest on YouTube. He does a lot of like MTG stuff. Very, very cool guy, awesome company. But the Bear Walker boards look insane. That's the thing with Metazu. They can do anything. They could sell water balloons. People would buy it.
So some people love that, but then there's a whole other community that's the complete opposite because of the exact same things that you're mentioning right now. Now,
People are tribal, yeah.
now, Lee, you have a little bit more experience of like what people don't like about Metasu. I know you have your own community, and it's not very popular in your community. What do you think there's such a pushback against Metasu in that aspect?
Well, you have to understand, like, people come from a lot of different backgrounds in card gaming. For some people, they have a lot of experience in Magic the Gathering, and when it comes to gameplay, it's very well known that the unsets in Magic are very gimmicky and very difficult to actually play with in any other way than a super ridiculous casual manner, and it's just ridiculous, and you just can't play with it. It's just too difficult to play with. And I think a lot of people who come from that background who are incredibly familiar with all of the unsets from Magic, where like this doesn't make sense. All the fourth wall mechanics in the game. How can we play this game? It doesn't make sense. And in the beginning stages of MetaZoo, it really did not look like the game was playable. It looked like it might have been like ridiculously casually playable, but like when it comes to the competitive scene, a lot of people in our community were very competitive game oriented. So it was really hard to make that transition to see what MetaZoo is trying to actually create. And I think so. Some of that negativity comes from that ill perspective. There's also some negativity around NFTs just in general, and the whole energy behind buying a graphic that you don't even own, even though you own it. It's just such a kind of like a weird concept. I think people are having a hard time grasping that. Like some people have a hard time grasping things like the cryptocurrencies and stuff. Again, you have like those different types of polarizations in those communities as well. And then you had the polarization in the artwork, as you mentioned yourself earlier. It was very almost felt unfinished or childlike in its design and creation, which was intentional and on purpose. It was one of those things where you either liked or you didn't like. And so again, it polarized the art group who liked it or didn't like it. And
It sounds like a lot of
then there
people
was
just
just
sitting on a high chair right there and be like,
community.
"No, this artwork is
Yeah,
not good. No, you cannot have fun. No, you do not need to pull
right.
up your map in Google Maps to see how far away from a city you are to see if your car gets power."
Rah! You know what? You know what pissed people off? You know what really
Yeah,
pisses them off is that MetaZoo kicked ass doing all that.
yeah,
That's what pisses them
yeah,
off. It's that they looked at it and they were like, "I hate NFTs," and then MetaZoo Kickstarter boxes are 10 grand, and then
yeah.
they're like,
They look.
"I think the game is goofy," and then MetaZoo just keeps making more products. Like
And more
Yeah,
money and more
I
collabs.
I hate that they sold skateboards and then they sell $500,000 in skateboards on a Friday morning. You know what I mean? That's why they're mad. Because you wouldn't be mad
yeah,
if it wasn't kicking ass and taking names in so many ways. Now it's not. I'm not saying it's perfect. It has issues, and it has hit bumps. But the bottom line is, if you saw some indie game and you thought the art sucked, you wouldn't like sit there and talk about it for a year with your
yeah,
friends. Oh, I hate that guy Steve. His art sucks. Like it's kind of the hate is so palpable with MetaZoo. It has to be because people, most of whom have never played it, so they just kind of
yeah.
make assumptions based on what they heard. You know, they find some things they don't like. It's not their game, and they get mad because it's like they don't like it, but yet it seems to be working.
And it's doing so much better than some other games, including the one that we're here to
Yeah.
talk about. This outlandish
Yeah.
idea came out, thrived, made millions of dollars, keeps giving millions of
Look,
dollars away via tournaments and everything. And you know,
three-armed mutant dinosaur. I don't know if you can see that very well. Got 3 arms. It's wearing a cowboy hat. It's a zombie
uh,
mutant
I like it
dinosaur.
already.
and how much did a card like that cost?
Oh, this is just from a blister pack, couple dollars.
Okay,
Top. Yeah.
gotcha.
So yeah,
Yeah.
as Adam and Adam knows how my perspective is on MetaZoo, but just to give you guys a little bit of a perspective, I've always been of the mindset that people should be allowed to just enjoy whatever games that they want for whatever reasons whatsoever. And the polarization has always amused me as well, and it's always been kind of like a battle for us to try to keep everything, keep everything nice between everybody at times. So sometimes it's just harder to do. And but I've always loved, like the other day, like a couple months ago, Adam like gave me a deeper dive into the lore behind MetaZoo, and I was like, oh wow, that's actually like really sick and really cool, like the story behind it and everything. And I could like legitimately see a story or a show come up from that, and I was really excited to hear about that. And I've always loved cryptids. My wife loves cryptids, so I always have to listen to like Bigfoot shows on TV all the time, and it's great. So like I can like really relate to like a lot of the different regional aspects behind the cryptids, and so I really loved that aspect. And I loved what was the series of videos that you did Adam, at the beginning, where you showcased each cryptid and gave an explanation about what that cryptid was?
So here's what I found: people don't watch lore videos. I mean, some people do, but if you look
I
at
love
it as yeah, I do too. But I mean, like as a percentage of the viewer population, it's a very low percent. When you look at YouTube, even for Magic, if you look at lore videos on Magic, it's nothing compared to just entertainment or prices. So I couldn't get people to watch the lore video. I'd be like Cactus Cat lore, or like Hug and Molly, or Mothman, and like 6 people come and one of them brings their grandma, and that's it. But so people like opening packs, so I called it lore packs, and what I did is I would open a booster pack, and I'd make it all exciting, and then you have that chase, and people like seeing that, and then I would pull a card out of it randomly, and I would boom segue into like a 1 or 2 or 3 minute little lore shot about that card. And so in combining it, I was able to get people to actually like show up to a lore video.
I loved it.
I mean,
Lore
interesting
packs.
concept. Ended up working, absolutely. But
Yeah.
let me ask you this. So when Argent Saga ended, why Metazoo? Out of all the games you could have branched out to, what specifically would you say attracted you to this game after the end of Argent Saga? Because you had your pick. You could have gone Fire and Blood. You could have gone back to MTG. You could have picked up any of the many niche games that's been out. What was it about Metazoo specifically that really drew you in?
So I guess I didn't go back to MTG because I'm just kind of like I've been around MTG forever, and it's not bad, but I'm just kind of bored. I'm kind
I
of
mean,
bored of it.
say it's not bad to the thousands of people who's crying about the 30-pack anniversary things that just came out for the 30 years for MTG, how the community is
Well,
currently crashing and burning and about to
WotC
go
is
into riot. So
under monetized. I'm trying to be diplomatic. I I didn't want to go back to MTG, and the game is great. I enjoy playing it if I'm playing with people that I enjoy.
Mhm.
Yes.
You know what I
That's fair.
mean?
That's
Just
always
like
been there for me right there.
yeah. So the real question then, okay, so Magic is out. Um, Flesh and Blood's fine. I played Flesh and Blood for a bit, and it wasn't for me. I didn't really enjoy it. I know a lot of people love gameplay, and that's great. Good for you guys. I didn't really like it. And to me, it was like Magic themed, which is fine, but with different mechanics. And I wanted something like, I don't know, I wanted something different, and so the reason I picked Metazoo, because I looked at a ton of stuff. The reason I picked Metazoo is because it wasn't gonna die. Like when I look at the analysis of like, you have to look at the financials, the runway, the brand. What's the plan? Are they gonna die? I don't really want to dive into another game that's just gonna die. And I'm not saying there's a problem with that game. That games can be fun. They can be collectible and fun and entertaining, but for me, investing in communities, the problem is when a game dies, this community is just left drifting in the ocean looking for other stuff. And it was like, I just didn't want to do that. So I picked Metazoo because it has an incredibly broad brand IP. And so you have a game, but Metazoo is not a card game. Just like Pokemon is not a card game, right? Like nobody, if Pokemon makes a flavor of Frosty at Wendy's, the community isn't like, Pokemon Frosties? How dare they? It's because Pokemon does whatever the hell Pokemon wants. That's Metazoo. Metazoo is going to make balloons, whether you like it or not, and people are going to buy them. And when I see that, I see a company that's going to make money, and a company that makes money will not die. And that is what I wanted.
You
And
were
I
just
liked it.
trying to avoid getting burned again after Argent.
Well, that's part of it, and I had to like it too.
That's
Like I
fair.
wouldn't do it if I didn't like it. But I liked cryptids. I liked the wackiness. I like the zaniness. I'm with you. I didn't like the art at first. Like if you watch my first medicine video, I'm like, like it didn't. The first set, looks unfinished because it was like two guys in a basement or in an apartment to put a set together, and they didn't have a ton of money because Kickstarters, nothing was mooning yet, because nothing was mooning until MetaZoo mooned, and then everything has mooned since, right? So they didn't have any money, so they paid artists that they could find on like Instagram $50 for watercolor artwork. They did what they could do. They used public domain icons because they couldn't afford graphic design. So yeah, the first set looked unfinished because it was, you know, but it took off so fast and so hard that they spent a period of time playing catch up, hiring artists, getting an art designer, creating their own icons, improving the card quality, improving all this stuff, and it took time, but it's come a long way. But yeah, I'm with you, man. At the beginning, I was like, you'd pull a card out and you'd be like,
Yeah.
I
I
like some
mean,
of them, but some of them you're just like,
coming from Argent Saga, we are completely used to being disappointed by first sets. I mean,
yeah,
nothing can be.
dude. Argent
No-
Saga, you couldn't even see the cards in the first set. It's covered in that horrific seizure-inducing hollow pattern.
I do have to admit that the artwork that I've been seeing lately has been not bothering me in MetaZoo. I've really actually been okay with the artwork that they've been coming out with a lot lately. And I'd like to bring up another point as well. You kind of mentioned that MetaZoo is not really so much a card brand as a card game as much as a giant IP. But we gotta also acknowledge now that there's been a lot more organized play and a lot more competition and a lot more competitive events out there for MetaZoo, and the gameplay is really kind of starting to shape up for people to the point where they're willing to put their time and energy into it as a competitive player too.
Well, they have a $1.2 million tournament at the end of the year. The first place is $500,000. So let me ask you this. You have all these players who are like, that's dumb. I don't want to bring a plant with me to play a game. Would you do it for $500,000?
Fuck yeah.
Because that's
Fuck
what's on
yeah.
the table. All right.
I mean,
Yeah.
so
I know it's different, but the truth is, competitive MetaZoo they've really streamlined the Goofy, and they make so much money selling the brand. And instead of being a cash grab where they take it and they run away, they are pumping it into organized play to support players. And they're sending kits out to game stores. They're really trying to build that, you know? So
Yeah.
it's nice, because they could just take the money and run. But they're not. They're like, they have a $50,000 tournament cash with 50 or to 70,000 prize support every month, starting from March through October, finishing with $1 million tournament. And it's like, all right, fine. I guess we'll see what happens.
yeah, I mean, after Argent Saga died, I swore off physical card games. I hadn't picked anything up, and then first game that's picked my interest since this game died was, besides Metasu, once you told me that price is coming and everything, because now even my interest is peaked, was
That's
Battle
life
Spirits.
changing.
It
So
is,
you know
but
what's kind of funny
yes,
is I was thinking about going along that path and quitting card games. So when Magic, I quit Magic after War of the Spark, and I went from Magic to Force of Will, which saved me from quitting games altogether. Because Force of Will was such a refreshing card game system, and the artwork was amazing, and the card textures were incredible. The colors were gorgeous. It was a beautiful card game. I had so much fun, and it was so easy for me to pick up and get into. But that hit its second slump in the community as well, and then I was lost again. And that's when I found Argent Saga, and immediately fell in love with Argent Saga. Argent Saga saved me from quitting card games completely. And when Argent Saga reached its pinnacle, I was so invested in the community and in the game that I was locked in it. I was in it forever until and then it died. And it was really kind of a very big mourning period. And our entire team was set adrift, and we were lost again for quite some time. Our entire community was set adrift. and people are just dispersed into a bunch of different games. Like Adam said earlier, everybody kind of like when your card game dies, everybody kind of like floats around in the abyss for a while. And it just was just such a bad feeling. I almost quit everything at that point and just almost left card games altogether.
Where
And
I'm at
the
right now.
only reason that I didn't was because of the community and the team, because we still had people engaged in interacting and active. And I'm like, well, why am I here? What am I doing? And then I really had to take analysis of why I was in card games, and it was because of our people that I was still there at the end of the day. And so that's why I decided to continue to search for a card game that I could start to rebuild in. And eventually that became for me Flesh and Blood, because that's where our community and our some of our team were driving towards. But so we've grown that up to as big as it is in the tavern now. It's been pretty awesome.
So
But that's why
quick
I'm there,
little
is the
side
people.
note. Quick little
Yeah.
side note. Flesh and Blood launched at the very same Gen Con that Argent Saga launched back in 2019.
Yeah.
Very same event when distributors and everybody was sitting down and talking and analyzing these new games. All the spotlight was on Argent Saga, and Argent Saga leapt and ran immediately on launch, and then completely whimpered and died. And like the slow, steady turtle beating the rabbit, Fire and Blood passed it and kept going, and it's still going strong in many communities with a ton of really expensive cards, from what I heard, and a lot of community interest, and some really, really loyal fans out there for that game too. So it's good to see, man. I did kind of like the same jump you did. I played a little bit of Force of Will. I did have an intermission where I played DBS for a bit competitively, so that was pretty fun. But
Well,
after
my
Argent
friend,
Saga,
I do
still officially
unfortunately have
quit.
to go ahead and leave for now. But I wish you all the best luck with the rest of this podcast. And looking forward to talking to everybody in the community as well very soon. We are having a lot of fun with Argos Saga again, and I'm really hopeful for the potential that it has for maybe for a future. We'll see what happens with it, and talk to you guys again soon.
We know you're at work, so we appreciate you
Lee.
taking some time, Lee.
Bye, everybody.
All right, bye.
See ya.
So
So
back
you
to
and
the
I.
real thing. Just you and I.
Just you and I.
By the way, guys, he took some time off while he's at work to join us on this call. Fortunately, he works nights, so it's kind of hard to get everybody's schedule aligned together so we can do this. But we really appreciate him coming in and giving some of his insight and everything. But back to like the meat of the things. So left Argent, found Metasu, started doing content for Metasu. It grew to where it is right now. You having your own website for Metasu, doing insane numbers when it comes to their product and everything. But at that ending period, like once Argent Saga ended, what happened? Did you make an approach? Did you try to pick up the game? Did you talk to the owners? Talk to
Yeah.
us. Like, what was that whole period like?
Yeah. So part of it was that almost every game booms at first. Well, if they boom at all, right? But then there's always like nothing goes up forever. And so you always have a decline. And so you have this thing for a lot of new games where they hit 2 years and then they quit, or they hit like just 2 3 years, they quit. Set five, set six, set four. And it's so expected that there are a lot of people who won't even touch a new game until it has like made it past that. Um, and if you manage to become a durable game, then at some point you can become the game that people go to when their new indie game dies, right? And then you can grow and you can grow and you can grow. So MTG discusses this, for example, like Mark Rosewater in some podcasts will say that when they view new games that are up and coming, they don't view them as competition because their research, according to them, which is probably biased, right, shows that new games will die, and then a certain percentage of that community that is now disenfranchised will look for something more stable, and they will go to MTG because it's been around forever. So, like as a new game, you need to, from the beginning, you need to plan for the time when you're down in the deep, right? You need to, if it's booming up front, you need to save money. You need to plan for the time when it's going to pull back. And your best case scenario is that you boom enough during the boom phase that when it starts to pull back, because people, when prices start to go down, and they just do, people become disenfranchised, disillusioned, less interested, they feel bad, negativity is assumed, and you'll lose a lot of your fan base and your players. And hopefully you boomed enough that your core is enough to keep you alive. And the thing about Argent Saga was, according to the numbers, they could have done it, but it would have been limping. But that's what it is at the bottom. And then if you can do that, if you can limp through your low, you can start to grow, and then proving durability then can help bring people in. So I don't know. I just thought that there was enough there that if they could just like release sets, just make it, just prove durability, and don't do it meekly. Come out and be like, cool, like I know, price is going down. If you guys want to come back, like we're never going to stop. Like wear the armor of God when you run your card game and tell people you got the next 10 years and you're never going to stop. And so I was in a position to just run a game as a passion project and just never stop. That's what I wanted to do, was just take something and just never stop, because I'm just tired of things that fall apart. So the problem is I was looking at Argent Saga and I was like, well, maybe they would let this game go for the value of extinct IP. You have a bunch of artwork that's already been used. You've got some plans for a fifth set, but at the end of the day, if the game goes under, none of it's worth
anything.
like it's not worth anything. So I thought maybe I could get it for a pretty good deal and then use my resources to keep it going. And I have enough of a normal income that, frankly, you could just keep it going. Like, you could afford to grow slow for as long as it took, basically. And so, but then when I approached the powers that be at the time, they wanted like hundreds of thousands of dollars, most of which was being attributed to dead product in a warehouse that's not going to sell if your game goes under, that I didn't want. Like, I didn't want $100,000 or $200,000 in betrayal. I didn't want 50,000 starter decks. Like, I didn't want it. And at the time, there was no negotiation. So unfortunately, we just weren't able to. Our numbers were too different. I was kind of like over here in the it's worth nothing if you do nothing with it. And then,
It's
and I'll do
still
so.
worth
I'll do
nothing
so.
if they don't do anything with it.
Yeah. So here's my thought: is like, if somebody picks up the game, the dead inventory becomes live inventory that they can maybe sell, right? So the person holding the inventory should be motivated to get the game going, especially if they're not doing anything with it. So I was really hoping to leave the inventory, get the IP, and run forward with set 5. And then the owners of Argent Saga previously could just sell the inventory and not have it be dead.
Mm-hmm. And
But they didn't go
regain
for
most
it.
of their inventory, yeah.
Yeah, so that was it. I think they wanted, I don't know, $500,000 or something like that. And I was like, for 500 grand, I could start
$500,000?
I could start 5 new games.
$500,000?
Then they came down, but it was a lot. Over 100. It's like 200 or something like that.
So you're saying we wait maybe 2 more years and it will go down to a reasonable price, hopefully.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Like, so let's say they want 100 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do they know that for way less than $100,000, you can design a game, manufacture some products, pay artists? You can do a lot, and then enough to run your Kickstarter. You don't have to print everything, right? But you can get everything polished up, a website, plan it out for a few sets, and then run a Kickstarter and raise $250,000 because you put in the work and it looks good. And then people are they're paying for your print. Like, you don't need to buy a game for $100,000 if the game is just sitting in a warehouse. You can just make your own new one, call it Argent Saga or something, So that's why I thought they would come down in price.
Mechanics are not you cannot put rights to mechanics. They cannot be trademarked. So game mechanics can be copied by any game out there. You just change the words around, call it something different, and you can basically put out the
Exactly.
same game.
Yeah, the wording. They can go after you for wording on cards, but which is funny. Like one of the things MetaZoo gets crap for is because instead of calling it a deck, they call it a spellbook, and instead of calling it your hand, it's a chapter, and then a card is a page, and it is
Cute.
kind of it's kind of irritating to use a page from your chapter to search your spellbook, right? Like when you're changing your vocabulary. But the reason they did it is because 10 years from now, they don't want to like get sued over 500 cards by WotC because inevitably the something's going to come out. It's going to say draw 3 cards and like Hasbro's going to sue them. But now it's draw 3 pages. Woo! Like it's yeah, but mechanics, you can't copyright it. So, but the nice thing about Argent Saga though is that for a moment it had something, and it still has some community, and it still has people that are interested in it. It has something, and so and it has 4 sets of cards. So the nice thing about that is that if you come out with set 5 with Argent Saga instead of just a Kickstarter set, that people that come into your game in set 5 who want a taste of something more, they don't have to wait for set 6. They can go back to set 4 and it's already there, or set 3 or set 2. They can get into
just
the old
stay away from
mode.
set 1. Stay away from set 1.
Stay away from set 1. Just look at set 1. You've got to
Look at set one.
really you've got to really have your passion in line to dive on set 1. No, you know what I mean? Like
Unless
they
you
can
want some
go.
of them Cyril Hoennas. I mean, that card is still hot, sexy, spicy, and expensive. So
Yeah, she's pretty
you
good.
pull Cyril Hoennas or Cyril Shards, you're still in the money, my guy. So
Woo! That's why I was hoping
but,
it would work where the owners would keep some of the inventory or work out some kind of deal with the inventory, because I think new fans, while they're waiting for what's ahead, I think they would look behind. And I think they would like what they saw, especially Hoken. I love that set. It's a really good, it's a nicely done set, really fun to open, fun to play. Hoken's great.
the game
Essentially,
definitely found its footing and managed to polish a lot of things starting on set 3, and set 4 was definitely showing that it had the momentum and it was going in the right direction between set 3 and set 4.
yeah.
But funnily enough, I found this out today. I actually went to a card shop here in North Houston to pick up some sleeve because I was actually playing some Argent Saga on my dining room table with a friend, and when we went to this hobby store to pick up sleeves, they asked us, "So what game are you playing?" And my friend just said Argent Saga. I'm over to the side. I'm playing on their little Pac-Man machine while my friend is buying sleeves and trying all the different sleeves and deck boxes. And when I hear him say the name, I look around. I'm like, I bet she hasn't heard those words in a long time. You should have seen the owner's face. We're talking wide-eyed, just like and then the owner. I'm like, well, I already said she, so it's a her. So the owner suddenly goes like, you know what? We were at TCG Con this last weekend, and people were saying that the game was coming back, and that there was people trying to buy the game. So it's gotten to the point where distributors and the actual gaming community and the TCG community knows that there is a big push to bring this game back right now, and it's running around actual store owners that were there at the TCG Con here in Houston of the game coming back. And she immediately went off like, we were really big on that game. Everybody here loved it. We loved running events. So it was really refreshing to see that when it didn't come from the core community that's on Discord, that's always trying to get together, try to do events, to see that there's still excitement out there for the game. So
Yeah.
if we can get it back, we could, and we're trying. If we could get it back, what do you think this game should do differently, Adam? Like, what do you think we could do to make sure this game succeeds on if we manage to get this second try for it?
Gosh. I mean, I did make a video about this at some point.
We'll link it below. give us the clip notes.
But I have more, I've had more time to ruminate now. So you need a couple things. One of them is I don't know the intricacies of what happened with the Argent Saga team, like the management team, but um, like it totally fell apart so that they didn't have a team. So obviously you can't run, and I don't know all the details. I'm just saying, like whoever's running it, you don't need a million people. You just need a couple good people, but like they have to be able to get along and stick with it, you know. And if there's infighting or
And
betrayals or whatever it is, like obviously that'll kill anything, anything.
it's next thing you're gonna say is gonna be, it's not a huge revelation that this is what's needed for the game to ascend, right? Since we're bringing
I
all the
know,
Argent funds
but
into it.
isn't it a little shocking, like how many great things are brought down by like something as simple and common sense as that? Like if it blows up from the inside, it blows up on the outside. So you really need you just need a couple of good people.
And
That's
you
really
need to
all it
pay
takes.
those people. You need to be able to pay the people that
Well,
are spending their time in the game.
ideally, you need to find a way to incentivize them to stay. But keep in mind, payment can be done a lot of different ways. You can pay people in equity ownership, you can put them with skin in the game. A lot of people are willing to do a lot more work for a lot less money for something if they think they're building a future with it and they have a percent. So maybe you give them a 1%, 5%, 8%, whatever it takes, depends on how valuable they are as a person. And the reason I bring that up is because payroll is expensive.
It is.
Payroll's the number one cost, you know, and like so yeah, you need to pay the people that are doing the work for you, but you really also need to figure out who's important, like who do you need to keep and what do you need to get that person to make them stay, and can you do it as a new game, because if your costs get too high you die,
It's true.
you know. So like it is a balancing act, and I've seen some people use equity tie-ins for their best people, you know, maybe the best artists would work out a deal. You can save a ton of money if you have a really good artist cranking out really good stuff for an equity ownership, you know, or like the product designer is really important. That would be
Yeah,
a really important thing.
because they know as long as their product succeeds, they get paid. If it doesn't succeed, they don't see a dime. So it makes people work all that much harder to come up with a quality product.
It's what people are buying. Like, you know, like you need someone that's going to make things people will buy. So, but my point is, so you come up with a couple like people. Yeah, and then you do what you got to do to keep them in, and then ideally you have a management structure or whatever it is. I won't get into it. That doesn't completely blow up from the inside. So I guess that's step one: is keep your house together. Keep your house together if you want to make it. If you have a deadbeat, cut them loose. But if you need your good team to keep it together. Next thing is, you know, I liked the idea of putting butts in seats. That was a big thing. They were like, we got to put butts in seats to get them to the LGS. And I like that. That was good. But one of the things that they did that I think I remember everyone except for the top players had a big problem with was that they would release powerful playable promo cards that you could only win by like topping these local events, you know. And then the top players would get them all and sort of sell them out. And the problem was that over the course of like Argentina's lifespan, what it did is it started a cycle where you just had all these cards that you needed to play certain decks, and they would 100% of the time start out really high price, and then because they're continuously released, they would always tank. And the problem is you had players that had to buy them or felt like they had to, knowing they were lighting money on fire because they knew it would tank, but they don't want to wait 2 months to play their deck. You know, and so like what Arsaga should have done was come up with a variant card, an alternate art, or a serial thing, or some kind of promo, but have the playable version still available. It'll still sell for money, but you don't screw everyone except for the best players. Argent Saga, if anything, catered too much to the 1%, And you know what you have if you cater too much to the 1%? You have your 1%. Good luck with that.
Correct.
You know,
Yeah.
the
The
rest of your
casual gamers and collectors will spend the money in their game. They are what will keep the game alive, not just
yeah,
competitive players. And there's plenty of examples of what you just mentioned. You have cards like Warku for the Shard Mechas, which were a really popular archetype. You have cards like the Overseer for Metile, which ended up
yeah,
just running a whole format where you needed to play that deck if you wanted to be competitive, close enough to it at least. So
yeah.
definitely was something that happened time and time again that you could see would affect the community a lot when it comes to that. So
Yeah, you create alternate promo. The collectors have the money they're burning anyway. Collectors spend so much money. They spend way more than players most of the time because they buy things they don't need. And you can be a collector and a player, but I just mean in general. So yeah, the player can go win an alt promo, sell it to a collector who'll be happy to get it. They're not going to play it. They're going to put it in a binder, and then like everybody wins. So I just think they could have done that differently. People were complaining about that a lot. The product quality out of the gate, like I know financial decisions had to be made, but Argent Saga's very first release, the foiling covered everything, and it was so dark you couldn't see anything. And so all this hype, stores that ordered piles of these boxes, and then they had release events, and everyone's excited. And the very first experience with the card is you can't even see it. It was like,
it's pretty bad.
what are you doing? That's your first. Haven't you listened to Eminem? That song came out a long time ago. You have one shot. Like, you can't do that. That's really unacceptable. And I know I know logistics are hard, especially you're printing overseas. I know that it's hard, but you can
in
have them. You can have
in
them take pictures of printing sheets,
in
and
this
they'll
case,
just
the
like.
product was not printed overseas. The product was printed by a very, very reputable local U.S. printer.
So it's
But
like they just
something
like didn't look. Uh,
something happened. We don't know where the miscommunication was. I wish I could give you more details at this time. I cannot. I hope those details come out very, very soon.
that's
But
your products guy, or gal. Your products person
mhm.
is a special combination of creative and meticulous. Ideally, and you need someone who gives enough of a darn, or more flavorful words, whatever, to look at the product before it goes out.
Well, the problem is, if all you're doing is just video calls and pictures, we actually did this test during episode 1 during our first podcast, and we grabbed some of those version 1 Betrayal 1.0 cards and put it up to the camera. If you look at it through a camera, it does not look that bad.
Okay, I'll give it to you. It's under the other thing in some light testing. Apparently, we're both like nerds like that. Is that if you look at it under factory fluorescent lighting, like white, like cool white fluorescent factory lighting, it actually looks. You can see it. You can see
Yeah.
it. It's dark, but you can see it. And so I'll give you. It's possible that in a factory, someone took a photo and it polarized some of the
Mhm.
reflection, and that it maybe looked passable. But then as
But
soon as you put it under soft light, you can't see anything.
these are mistakes that the game made at first that we know won't be made again when it comes to design like that. We're talking
Yeah.
game
Oh yeah,
re-releases.
because they
Obviously,
fixed
that
it.
they fixed it. They fixed it. So, what else do you think going forward? Completely new. We're relaunching. What do you want to see?
I see.
What does Argos Anon want to see from Argent Saga that will say this will succeed?
Well, you need someone that people that are getting behind the game can believe in, someone that they will rally behind. Because there were certain communities and certain businesses that just wouldn't get behind Argent Saga because of things in the past I won't get into that I don't even know a lot about. I just remember people were talking about it all the time. So ideally, you don't have a cloud over it. So a fresh start with a fresh person. You need
Okay.
that. Number two, um, I think that it would be better to consider the collector base and consider them in a way that doesn't monetize your game more, right? Like appeal to collectors and do it in a way that doesn't harm players, because those two sides will get all tribal, right? So I liked that they had serialized cards, but then they made 1,000 of them. Like that's actually a lot, and so they didn't really hold value. It was like an $8 card
That got
or a
dropped to
10,
500, set 3 and
and
4 going forward.
that was that made a nice difference because then the cards held value, and so you don't always need stuff like that, but like collectors like that. Collectors like to spend extra money collecting trinkets, and then if they open more packs, it puts more singles in circulation, which makes the product cheaper for players picking up normal singles. So like it ended, then people buy more product overall because collectors are buying what they don't need, right? So it puts more money in the hands of the game. So you don't want to overdo it, but like if you can walk that line of appealing to collectability with promos and serials and things like that, in a tactful way that doesn't hurt players, you're just making more money for your game, and it's a different market, really. Like you have to understand your market. Like what Argent Saga did before was they're like, we want this to be a competitive players game, which is great, except only 2% of people who play Magic the Gathering are competitive. And that's the biggest game in the world. So you're telling me your big startup idea was to pick the smallest market and run at it? What the heck was that? That's
Definitely
a
not the
that's a
smartest choice.
that's a bad idea. So like, and Argent had a lot of stuff going for it. The mechanics are actually quite simple to learn, simple to play, but complex enough to master that you can have competitive play, but the average person can just pick it up and play it real easy because the resources are like separate. It's easy. It's easy and fun. So they should at a reboot, they should consider a broad audience of casuals, and that's mostly marketing, casual versus collectors. You try to appeal to casuals and you try to appeal to collectors because those are your two largest markets by far, right? And then you use that success to promote competitive play, but you don't like forget everybody else. Look at football. How many people are able to play professional football?
Less
Not very
than
many.
1%.
Yeah, but how many people enjoy watching football at a professional level?
About 50 million people watch the Super Bowl a year.
So like you can drive a competitive sport in a TCG that other people will enjoy, but you can't do it while like ignoring the casuals. Like what do the casual football people get? Halftime shows, cheerleaders, hats. Like they oh, like they're
Phone
selling
fingers.
cheese hats. Like funny commercials. Like you do what it doesn't matter. Like whatever the audience wants, you give them a little something to push that market. Because without the casuals who enjoyed football, you wouldn't be able to pay your competitive players. Nobody would care.
Yeah,
Your market is casuals
thanks for bringing
and
up football. It's not like
collectors.
I'm not hurt at all that the Cowboys got eliminated like 3 days ago, so
Sorry,
thanks.
sensitive topic.
I mean, the Cowboy fans are already used to losing all the time in the playoffs, so they'll get over it. But
That's
I
right.
do
They're
live
always
nearby, so
almost good enough every time.
it's good enough every time.
It's okay. I
Yep.
moved to Minnesota, and they told me when I got here that the Vikings are always a sort of okay team, and that
Mediocre.
every now and then they'll give you hope.
Hey, but sort of okay pays the bills and stays alive.
Yeah.
So here's the big question: if the game comes back, would you support it under new management? Because I know you said that a good leader, someone that you can rally behind, is very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you go back
Totally.
to collecting it?
I mean, I still like. Oh yeah. I would collect it and I would play it
You
if it
collect
came back under new management. If it came back, if the model if unless I mean yeah, if the model made sense and it had new management and they're restarting, then I would play and collect it, support it, and make content and all that stuff.
Well, we weren't joking earlier. We know you are the biggest collector for Argent Saga right now, even as you've done everything you've done for MetaZoo and you have your huge collection of MetaZoo. Like, you brought them out, you showed us earlier. What did you bring out for us? What do you actually have in front of you right now, gold medal wise, that you want to show the people here?
Well, I've just been hanging on to these for the past year, but I have the complete set of all the one of one gold medal champions.
So
So
you
there's your
own every single first prize for every single Argent Saga Championship Series event.
yeah. So there's your like there's your lead. Here's the alpha. I got the alpha.
From before the game even released.
And I've got let's see. There's your standard.
hmm
Well, and then you've
From
got let's
Dallas,
see here.
Dragonholt, which was
Dragon holds.
from I think Indianapolis. Ergon
There's
from four. No, Ergon was from Vegas, right?
I think
Ethan
so.
was from Columbus, if I remember correctly. I played.
Yeah,
I
I
top
think
16 at
Columbus.
that Ethan event. Yes.
And
Oh,
then
and
there's actually two gold hoes, and I have both of them.
you managed to pick up the second one.
Yeah,
Whoa! So we did not know that. We thought the second one was still in the hands of Goodwin.
got it. Thanks, Goody.
Oh my God!
Got
So
it.
every
So
single championship card.
I also have all the bronzes and silvers,
Every single one.
except for one. I don't have bronze alpha Jamiel. I have all the
Do
other ones.
Do you know who has it?
I used to, but I asked him a few times he would sell it, and he never wanted to.
Well,
So I've forgotten over time.
if the game comes back, I don't think if you haven't been able to pick it up now that it's a dead game, it's gonna be harder once.
No, you're right though. You're right. It's fair that it's this actually was this was not easy for me to put this set. You think this was easy? This was
No,
really
absolutely not.
freaking hard. Yeah, I had to be on these people. The competitive players, really pro level players. There were some really good TCG players in Argent Saga. Smart guys. You know, people with a lot of like innate talent on this. And I like you keep open the comms, you find out who's going to what, who's going to be there, who's at the top, same day of the win. And you're like, hey, everybody, how's it going? You know, I had to do a little catch up when I first got in, but that's how I kept it going. Getting all the future ones was just, you know, it took a lot of work.
It
So,
feels it, it feels like way more work than I had to do to find a stamped bone scab and the price cards. And I still don't have a metal tux. You don't have a metal tux.
I
Do
don't.
you? Do you have a metal tux?
I don't have a stamped bone scab. I'll tell you that much.
Because
When was Metal Tux?
so metal
forget.
tux is the top price cards for the event where stamped bone scab came out. Which, to be fair, they didn't get shipped until a
Oh,
year after the event.
yeah. Then I
But
don't. I don't have
they're
those. Yeah,
they're out in the wild now.
that's cool that they finally made it out.
They're out
I
in
need
the
I need
wild
to
now.
organize my stuff. My Argent stuff is in. It's just in boxes and boxes and binders. Binders and boxes.
No, we're gonna need to
So
put some of those back up when you start making Argent Saga content once the game comes back. Maybe
yeah.
put like one side of your screen MetaZoo, the other side Argent Saga.
Yeah, I could do that. I mean, I'm just too lazy to change it around. That's why it's all MetaZoo right now. I don't
Nah,
want to
we're
take
good,
it
man.
down. But
Absolutely.
I still have decks. I have several constructed decks for Argent Saga. I don't really like playing on um, oh my gosh, tabletop simulator that much. You know, I love playing paper. I got a bunch of decks. I would totally play it again.
Yeah. Well, we have gotten some webcam games going too, but speaking about TTS, as a reminder, we do have that tournament on the 29th of January. It starts at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for the main event. Entry is $20. It is hosted by Tavern Brawlers and Lee, who was here earlier. There are boxes for prize cards. There are metal cards for prize cards, and there will be an open workshop for people to play in and win some of these stuff for completely free from noon to 6 p.m. Eastern next Sunday. And speaking about things that are coming up and things that we discussed last time, we do have a giveaway that we need to finish for the cereal little Hoken amulet that we opened live last podcast, and we will be giving that away today at the end of this little podcast. So in a few minutes, we'll let you guys know who actually won the card and get that going for you guys. So, Adam, honestly, like last thoughts, what do you think? Do you think this game's coming back? Are
I
we
would love
hopeful?
this. I would love to see it come back. I really like it. I would love to see it happen. I think Damien is a very capable person. He held things together. He has a lot of experience doing a lot of stuff by himself, and he's really passionate about it. And I think that's really important. If anybody brought it back, you'd want Damien working on it.
Yep.
And then yeah, I'd love to see it. I just think yeah, it just needs one final thing. It either needs what the owner to make a deal,
Hmm.
or it needs some other person to be able to step up in an initial investment. And it may only be a matter of time before one of those two things happen, because it seems like everything else is pretty well lined up.
That's true. And you said earlier we needed someone that people could rally behind, and I really think Damien has the track record and the experience and the charisma for people to rally behind him and support him and bringing this game back for sure. So we're definitely excited to see that happen. But with
Yeah.
that being said, I am going to turn off my camera for just a second while I pull up the stuff for the giveaway and then share it for you guys. Let me go ahead right here and what we see. Do have the names right here of the 8 people that signed up. People can see it on the stream. And we're just gonna go to random number simulator and random number generator, and we're gonna choose whoever wins. So 1 out of 8. And Adam, I'll let you choose how many times we roll it to see who wins the giveaway.
Roll it 3 times.
3 times. All right. So 1 through 8 in the order has been posted. We're rolling it 3 times. Make sure people see it here. So 1, 2, 3. So it's the person number 1 actually that ended up winning it, and that is Josh. So congratulations, Josh. You won yourself a serial Hoken warding amulet number 56 out of 500. I will get in contact with you via email that you posted on the forum so I can get your Who's Talking, series talking, so I can get that mailed out for you guys. So again, Adam, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for doing this with me. Really appreciate your insight and hearing what you had to say and seeing you grow and seeing everything you've done after you left this community and started Metasu and everything. And I know we'll keep seeing great things from you, and you keep doing great things for that community. And really hope to have you back. All right, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right,
This
guys.
is fun.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
You got it. Well, see you guys later. Goodbye.
Yeah.